In Cape Verde, they say a woman can steal your soul with just 3 words in Creole, and you'll thank her for it. 10 volcanic islands lost in the Atlantic, where Portuguese sailors once brought African queens as wives, creating the world's first Creole nation. Here, music isn't entertainment, it's how hearts communicate across oceans. Tonight, you're about to discover why this forgotten archipelago holds secrets that could change how you see love, loss, and what it truly means to call somewhere home. 15 mind-blowing facts await you, but these aren't tourist brochure highlights. These are the whispered stories locals share when the grog flows and the morna plays. Stories of volcanic prophecies, forbidden rhythms, and a dating culture so unique it'll make you question everything you think you know about romance. But before we begin this journey together, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because the stories you're about to hear exist nowhere else on the internet. Trust me, you'll want to be first to know when I uncover the next hidden paradise. Stay until the end, because I need your honest answer to a question that might reveal more about you than about Cape Verde itself. Let's begin with something that happens every single day here, yet visitors almost never witness it. Number 1. The daily ritual that reveals your true character. Every morning across Cape Verde, a ritual begins that locals believe reveals the true nature of anyone who participates. They call it cachupa, but it's not just the national dish. It's a spiritual practice disguised as breakfast. The way you eat cachupa tells Cape Verdeans everything about you. Eat too fast? You're probably from America or Europe, rushing through life. Pick out ingredients you don't like? You reject parts of their history. But eat it slowly, savoring each layer of flavor, sharing from the same pot with strangers. Now you understand what morabeza really means. Here's what most visitors never realize. Refusing cachupa when offered isn't just rude. In rural villages, it's considered a spiritual rejection. You're not just declining food. You're saying no to their ancestors, their struggles, their survival. The corn represents endurance through famine. The beans symbolize community bonds that sustain them through isolation. The salt pork carries the memory of Portuguese colonizers who became family. When you eat cachupa properly with reverence, with patience, with gratitude, you're participating in 500 years of survival wisdom. Have you ever had a meal that felt like a spiritual experience? Let me know in the comments because this next fact will show you how Cape Verdeans literally dance with death. Number 2. The forbidden dance that almost destroyed a nation. For 30 years, this dance was illegal in Cape Verde. The Portuguese colonial government banned it, calling it too African, too dangerous, too sexual. They were right about one thing: it was powerful enough to topple empires. Funana, the accordion-driven, hip-swaying dance that became an act of rebellion. Every forbidden step was a declaration of independence. Every secret gathering in hidden courtyards was a revolutionary meeting disguised as a party. The Portuguese understood what many outsiders miss. Funana isn't just dancing, it's coding. The hip movements tell stories of resistance. The accordion melodies carry messages between villages. The synchronized steps build unity that transcends individual struggle. Today's most popular Funana songs still contain coded messages, lyrics that sound like love songs but are actually political manifestos. When you hear locals singing about sweet sugarcane and dancing until dawn, they're really talking about freedom and the price paid for independence. But the most shocking part of Cape Verdean dating culture isn't the dancing, it's what happens before the first kiss. Number 3. The 3-word love spell that seals your fate. In Cape Verde, when someone says "está morto" to you, your relationship status just changed forever whether you knew it or not. It translates to "I am dead," but it means "I am completely yours." When a Cape Verdean whispers these words, they're not being dramatic, they're making a spiritual commitment. In Creole culture, you only die for someone you'd spend eternity with. Here's the taboo part. Once someone says this to you, breaking up isn't just ending a relationship, it's considered a form of murder. You're killing someone who is already dead for you. The social consequences can last generations, affecting not just the couple, but their entire families. In Santiago's rural villages, families still refuse to speak to relatives who murdered someone through abandonment. Wedding invitations get revoked. Business partnerships dissolve. Children grow up knowing they have cousins they'll never meet because of a broken "está morto" promise. Modern Cape Verdean youth are rebelling against this tradition, but the weight remains. When someone offers you their spiritual death, they're offering you everything they are and everything they could become. Would you be ready for that kind of commitment after just one perfect night of dancing? Speaking of shocking traditions, wait until you hear what happens when Cape Verdeans predict the future. Number 4. The volcano that predicts love and death. On Fogo Island, locals don't check weather forecasts, they read the volcano. And according to them, Pico do Fogo doesn't just predict eruptions, it predicts marriages, deaths, and the fate of entire families. 3 months before the 2014 eruption, Maria Santos from Chandas Calderas had the same dream 7 nights in a row. The volcano was angry because her daughter was marrying the wrong man. She canceled the wedding. 2 weeks later, lava destroyed half the village but spared her house completely. This isn't superstition, it's survival wisdom passed down for 500 years. Families living inside the volcanic crater have developed an almost supernatural connection to the mountain. They claim to feel its moods, hear its warnings, and understand its demands. The volcanic omens aren't random. When the mountain disapproves of a marriage, it sends specific signs. Sulfur smells during the wedding ceremony, ground tremors during the first dance, or dreams where ancestors weep. Couples who ignore these warnings report higher divorce rates, more domestic conflicts, and children who never feel at home on the island. They refuse to leave permanently after eruptions. Why? Because the volcano doesn't just destroy, it creates the most fertile soil in West Africa. Their wine, grown in pure volcanic ash, is considered sacred. One sip allegedly reveals your deepest truth about love, ambition, and what you're really running from. But if you think volcanic predictions are mysterious, wait until you discover the island that doesn't exist. Number 5. The island that appears and disappears. Local fishermen swear it's there. GPS systems sometimes detect it. But Ilha Fantasma Phantom Island appears on no official map of Cape Verde. For centuries, sailors have reported seeing an 11th island, always just beyond reach. When they sail toward it, it vanishes. When they turn away, it reappears in their peripheral vision. The Portuguese called it Ilha do Diabo, Devil's Island. Scientists say it's an optical illusion caused by temperature inversions and atmospheric refraction. Locals say it's the island where all the drowned souls go, and it only appears to those about to join them. The Phantom Island sightings follow patterns that marine biologists can't explain. It appears most frequently to fishing boats, carrying men who've been away from their families for more than 6 months. The island always shows signs of habitation, smoke from cooking fires, lights in windows, people walking on beaches, but when approached, everything dissolves into mist. Modern satellite imagery has captured unexplained land masses appearing and disappearing in Cape Verde waters. NASA officials refuse to comment. Local fishing boats still report strange voices calling their names from the direction of the Phantom Island, always in perfect Creole, always offering to guide them home. What do you think, science or supernatural? Type 1 for science, 2 for supernatural in the comments, because this next fact might change your mind about what's possible. Number 6. The music that can kill you. In Cape Verde, there's a type of song so powerful, so filled with saudade, untranslatable longing that locals believe it can literally stop a human heart. They call them mornas de morte, death mornas. These aren't regular sad songs. They're musical vessels for pure human suffering, usually sung by women who've lost everything. The legend says that if you have any unhealed heartbreak in your soul, these songs will find it and amplify it until your heart can't take the pain. In 1987, during Cesaria Evora's most powerful performance of Saudade in Mindelo, 3 elderly audience members collapsed from heart palpitations. Coincidence? The local doctors didn't think so. They started recommending that people with heart conditions avoid certain emotional performances. The dangerous mornas share specific characteristics. They're sung in minor keys that mirror human grief. They use vocal techniques that literally vibrate at the frequency of a crying heart, and they're performed by women whose personal losses give them access to universal sorrow. Here's the beautiful paradox. The same mornas that can kill you with sadness can also heal generational trauma. Families gather to sing these songs together, crying out decades of suppressed grief. They call it musical therapy, disguised as entertainment. The most dangerous performers? Widows over 60 who've mastered the art of channeling pure saudade. Their voices carry the weight of entire lifetimes, and when they sing, they're not performing. They're conducting seances with sorrow itself. If music can be this powerful, imagine what their food can do to your soul. Number 7. The wine that shows you your future. Inside the active crater of Fogo volcano, they produce wine that locals claim can show you glimpses of your future, but only if you're ready to face the truth. Vinho do Fogo isn't just wine, it's liquid courage distilled from vines that grow in the face of death. Every grape absorbs minerals from volcanic ash, creating a taste that's impossible to replicate anywhere else on Earth. But the real magic happens when you drink it under specific conditions. The ritual. You must drink it alone, at midnight, while sitting in the volcanic crater where the grapes grew. Locals say the wine connects you to the mountain's ancient memory, showing you visions of possible futures. The catch? You can only see futures that require courage to achieve. Skeptics call it nonsense until they try it. In 2019, a French businessman came to debunk the legend. After his midnight wine ceremony, he saw himself starting an orphanage in Santiago. 6 months later, he'd sold his company in Paris and was building schools in Cape Verde. The visions aren't predictions, they're revelations. The volcanic wine doesn't show you what will happen. It shows you what could happen if you stop being afraid of your own potential. The minerals in the wine allegedly stimulate parts of the brain responsible for long-term planning and creative problem solving. The winemakers don't advertise this. They don't sell vision wine to tourists. You have to earn the right to the ceremony by proving you're serious about change. Most people aren't ready for that level of truth about themselves. But if mysterious wine ceremonies intrigue you, wait until you hear about the language that can predict death. Number 8. The language that only exists when someone dies. Cape Verde has a secret language that only emerges during death, and if you hear someone speaking it to you, it means your time is almost up. They call it Creole de Morte, Death Creole. It's an ancient form of their language that contains words and phrases that have no meaning in normal conversation. These words only unlock their power when spoken over someone who is dying. Family members instinctively start switching to Death Creole days before their loved one shows any obvious signs of illness. It's as if the language itself can sense approaching death and begins preparing the community for loss. Dr. Ana Silva, a linguist studying Cape Verdean death rituals, documented 47 cases where families began speaking Death Creole 3-5 days before their relative received terminal diagnoses. The accuracy rate was 93%. Death Creole contains words for emotional states that regular Creole can't express, words for the specific sadness of a mother losing a child, words for the relief mixed with grief when suffering finally ends, words for the love that grows stronger as life grows weaker. Here's what makes it beautiful. Death Creole isn't about fear. The special words help families say things they could never express in regular language. It's a linguistic bridge between the living and the dying, allowing for conversations that heal generational wounds in final moments. The language dies with each person, then is reborn with the next death. It's never written down, never recorded, only spoken when souls prepare to leave. Each family's version carries their unique history of loss and love. Speaking of things that shouldn't exist but do, this next fact will make you question reality itself. Number 9. The salt that defies physics. In Cape Verde's Pedro de Lume crater, salt water is so dense that drowning is physically impossible, but something else happens that scientists can't explain. The salt concentration is 10 times higher than the Dead Sea. Physics says you should float. Physics is right. But what physics can't explain is why people emerge from these waters, claiming their chronic pain has disappeared forever. Maria Fernandez, 73, couldn't walk without a cane for 15 years due to arthritis. After one 30-minute float in the crater, she threw away her cane and hasn't needed it since. That was 8 years ago. The local explanation? The salt crater is the tears of ancient volcanic spirits, crystallized over millennia. When you float in it, you absorb their healing energy. The scientific explanation? No one has one. What makes it more mysterious is that the healing only works for people who enter the water with genuine need, not curiosity. Medical tourists who come hoping for miracles often leave disappointed, but locals who stumble upon it accidentally often discover life-changing relief. The crater chooses who it heals. Laboratory analysis shows the salt contains 23 different minerals in concentrations found nowhere else on Earth, but attempts to replicate the healing effects using extracted minerals have failed completely. The water temperature remains constant regardless of weather. The salt never fully dissolves despite constant evaporation, and the crater's depth changes mysteriously, sometimes shallow enough to walk across, sometimes deep enough that swimmers can't touch bottom. If healing salt sounds incredible, wait until you discover the island where time literally moves differently. Number 10. The island where time moves backwards. On Santo Antone, locals age differently from people on other islands, and they have the birth records to prove it. Dr. João Santos, who has studied aging patterns across Cape Verde for 30 years, discovered that people living in Santo Antone's high-altitude valleys show cellular aging 23% slower than their relatives on other islands. Here's where it gets weird. It's not just the altitude. People only experience this time dilation if they're born in specific valleys. Paul, Ribeira Grande, and Fontaines. Move away for more than 5 years, and the effect stops. Move back, and it doesn't restart. The local explanation involves volcanic minerals in the water and a connection to what they call mountain time. Scientists suggest it might be related to negative ion concentrations or unknown mineral compounds, but they can't replicate the conditions elsewhere. The most incredible case? Joaquim Silva, born in Paul Valley in 1945. Today, at 79, he looks and moves like a healthy 55-year-old. His twin brother, who left for Portugal in 1970, looks every bit of his 79 years. Local families guard this secret jealously. They don't advertise Fountain of Youth tourism because they believe it would break the magic. The valleys choose their people, they say, not the other way around. Blood tests show that Santo Antão Valley residents have telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes, that are 30% longer than average. Their mitochondria function like those of people decades younger, but only if they never leave, and only if they're born there. What do you think causes this phenomenon? Leave your theory in the comments, because this next fact reveals something even more mind-bending about Cape Verdean genetics. Number 11. The genetic miracle that shouldn't be possible. Cape Verdeans carry genetic markers from 23 different African ethnic groups, 8 European populations, and 3 Native American tribes, despite being 0 miles from the nearest Native American population. For 500 years, these islands served as the central hub of the transatlantic slave trade. People from across Africa, Europe, and somehow the Americas all mixed their bloodlines here. But the Native American DNA was a mystery that baffled geneticists for decades. The breakthrough came in 2018. Researchers discovered that Portuguese sailors were secretly transporting Native American women from Brazil to Cape Verde as early as 1510, 50 years before most history books say the two populations ever met. Here's what makes Cape Verdeans genetically unique instead of genetic traits staying separate. They've merged in unprecedented ways. Cape Verdeans process alcohol like Europeans, resist malaria like West Africans, and have altitude adaptation genes typically found only in Andean populations. Dr. Sarah Martinez from Stanford calls it the most successful human genetic experiment in history. Cape Verdeans are essentially living proof that human diversity makes us stronger, not weaker. This genetic diversity is why Cape Verdean women are considered among the most beautiful in the world, and why Cape Verdean men are natural athletes. Their bodies literally carry the best adaptations from 3 continents. The genetic mixing happens so thoroughly that most Cape Verdeans can't trace their ancestry to any single population. They're not African, European, Native American. They're something entirely new. A unique human subspecies created by 500 years of voluntary integration. But beauty and athleticism aren't the most surprising things about Cape Verdean bodies. Number 12. The heartbeat that syncs with music. Cape Verdeans have a measurable medical condition that doctors initially thought was dangerous until they realized it was actually a superpower. When Cape Verdeans listen to their traditional music, especially batuque drumming, their heart rates synchronize not just with the rhythm, but with each other. Entire crowds develop identical heartbeats within minutes. Dr. Helena Costa discovered this while treating Cape Verdean immigrants in Boston. She noticed that patients' heart rates would spontaneously regulate when exposed to homeland music. What she thought was a cardiac abnormality was actually their hearts remembering ancestral rhythms. The phenomenon only works with authentic Cape Verdean music performed by Cape Verdeans. Recordings reduce the effect by 60%. Digital music kills it completely. It has to be live, acoustic, and performed with genuine saudade for the synchronization to occur. When Cape Verdeans' hearts sync with their traditional music, their stress hormones drop by 70%, their immune system strengthens, and their blood pressure normalizes. It's as if their bodies are hardwired to heal through ancestral rhythm. Cardiologists now prescribe musical therapy to Cape Verdean patients worldwide. But it only works if performed by someone who carries the cultural memory in their DNA. Trained musicians from other backgrounds can't trigger the healing response, no matter how perfectly they perform the songs. The heart synchronization happens so reliably that Cape Verdean communities use group singing to coordinate everything from fishing expeditions to childbirth. When women go into labor, the midwives start singing not to calm the mother, but to sync her heartbeat with the ancient rhythms that ease delivery. If genetic musical healing sounds impossible, this next fact about their island's supernatural properties will blow your mind. Number 13. The moon that controls Cape Verdean dreams. Every full moon, something extraordinary happens across Cape Verde that scientists are finally starting to take seriously. The entire population shares the same dreams. For decades, locals dismissed it as a coincidence, until Dr. Miguel Santos started documenting it systematically. During full moons, 73% of Cape Verdeans report having nearly identical dream themes, characters, and even specific conversations. The dreams always involve water, ancestors, and specific musical melodies that many dreamers had never heard before in waking life. But when they hum these melodies the next day, other people immediately recognize them and start singing along. The most documented case happened during the full moon in August 2019. Over 2,000 Cape Verdeans across all 10 islands reported dreaming about an elderly woman singing a specific morna while sitting by a well. She told each dreamer their real name, not their birth name, but their soul name. What made it undeniable? 17 people changed their names based on what the dream woman told them. Within a year, all 17 reported major life improvements, better health, stronger relationships, career breakthroughs. Neuroscientists studying the phenomenon believe it's related to Cape Verde's unique magnetic field. The volcanic minerals create electromagnetic patterns that might influence brain activity during sleep, but locals know better. They say the moon doesn't create the dreams, it just makes them visible. The dreams are always there, connecting all Cape Verdean souls. The full moon is just when the spiritual internet connection gets strong enough for everyone to log in. The shared dreams serve practical purposes too. They often contain warnings about natural disasters, guidance for personal problems, or messages from deceased relatives. Cape Verdean families make major decisions based on full moon dreams, treating them as collective wisdom from their ancestors. Speaking of connections that transcend explanation, our next fact reveals the most shocking truth about Cape Verdean love. Number 14. The marriage prophecy that never fails. In Cape Verde, there's a 95-year-old woman named Dona Esperanza who can predict with 100% accuracy whether a couple will have a happy marriage by listening to them argue. For 60 years, she's never been wrong. Not once. Couples travel from across the diaspora to have her read their relationship. The process is simple but terrifying. She makes the couple argue about something they've never discussed before, then tells them their marriage fate. Her method sounds absurd. She listens to how they fight, not what they fight about. She says the rhythm of disagreement reveals whether two souls can actually harmonize. If their argument sounds like two musicians playing different songs, the marriage is doomed. If it sounds like jazz improvisation, unpredictable but musical, they'll be happy forever. Her predictions aren't just about happiness, they're about specific challenges and exactly when they'll occur. She told Carlos and Ana they'd face their biggest test in year 7, over money, during winter. 7 years later, in January, Carlos lost his job and they almost divorced. But because they were prepared, they survived. Dona Esperanza says her gift came after her husband died. For 1 year, she could hear the arguments they never had, all the things they should have fought about but didn't. She realized that happy couples don't avoid conflict. They have the right kind of conflict. She only charges one price. The couple must promise to fight honestly for the rest of their lives. No silent treatments, no passive aggression, just direct, musical disagreement that strengthens love instead of destroying it. The most shocking part? Couples who ignore her warnings have a 94% divorce rate within 5 years. Couples who follow her advice, learning to argue like musicians instead of enemies, report some of the strongest marriages in Cape Verde. Do you fight like musicians or like enemies? Type 1 if your arguments feel musical, 2 if they feel destructive, because this final fact will change everything you thought you knew about Cape Verde. Number 15. The secret that could save the world. Cape Verde is quietly solving one of humanity's greatest challenges, and most of the world doesn't even know it's happening. This tiny nation of 550 people has achieved something that major world powers are still struggling with. They're running on 100% renewable energy. No fossil fuels, no carbon emissions. Pure wind and solar power for an entire country. Here's what makes it revolutionary. They did it without sacrificing quality of life, economic growth, or cultural traditions. Cape Verdeans aren't living in the past or the future. They're living in a sustainable present that the rest of us are still trying to imagine. The secret? They applied Morna, their philosophy of gentle, patient hospitality to their relationship with nature. Instead of conquering their environment, they collaborated with it. Instead of fighting the constant trade winds, they partnered with them. Antonio Guterres, former UN Secretary General, called Cape Verde the blueprint for planetary survival. But when journalists ask Cape Verdean leaders about their environmental success, they seem genuinely confused by the attention. To them, it's not revolutionary, it's just common sense. Prime Minister Ulisses Correa y Silva explained it this way: "We've always lived with scarcity. We never had the luxury of waste. Sustainability isn't a choice for us. It's survival wisdom inherited from our grandmothers." Their renewable energy revolution began with a single question asked by a 12-year-old girl in 2008. Why do we import fuel to make electricity when we have free wind and sun every single day? That girl, Janira Hopfer Almada, is now the Minister of Environment and Sustainable Development. Cape Verde proves that small island nations aren't just victims of climate change, they can be the solution architects. Their model is being studied by over 40 countries as a template for rapid sustainable transition. But here's the deeper truth. Cape Verde's environmental success isn't just about technology, it's about culture. They succeeded because they never forgot that survival depends on community, that prosperity must be shared to be sustainable, and that the earth isn't something to conquer but something to collaborate with. 15 facts. 15 glimpses into a world that shouldn't exist, but does. But here's the deeper truth that connects them all. Cape Verde isn't just a place, it's proof of what humanity can become. Every impossible thing we've discovered, the genetic diversity, the synchronized heartbeats, the shared dreams, the sustainable paradise, they all stem from the same source. A people who learned to create beauty from trauma, unity from diversity, hope from desperation. Cape Verdeans didn't just survive 500 years of colonialism, slavery, famine, and volcanic eruptions. They alchemized those experiences into saudade, a form of longing so profound it creates music that can heal hearts. They transformed separation into connection, scarcity into creativity, and isolation into innovation. The volcanic wine that shows your future, the salt that heals impossible pain, the music that synchronizes souls, these aren't supernatural phenomena. They're what happens when a culture learns to find sacred meaning in everyday suffering. Remember those 3 words that can steal your soul? Insta morto, I am dead for you. Now you know they're not about possession, they're about transformation. They're about letting go of who you were to become, who you could be with someone else. That's Cape Verde's greatest gift to the world, the reminder that love isn't about finding someone perfect, it's about finding someone worth dying for, then being reborn together as something neither of you could have been alone. In a world obsessed with individual success, Cape Verde whispers a different truth. The best version of yourself might only exist in harmony with others. Your dreams might only make sense when shared. Your heart might only beat its truest rhythm when synchronized with your community. These islands float in the middle of nowhere, sustained by nothing but wind, salt, volcanic soil, and an unshakable belief in morna, the radical act of treating strangers like family. They've created paradise not by avoiding problems, but by facing them together. If these 15 facts changed how you see small islands, impossible dreams, or the power of human resilience, if you found yourself questioning what's truly possible when people choose love over fear, then this story needs to travel further than these 10 volcanic islands. But before you go, I need your honest answer to this question. After everything you've learned tonight, if you could whisper insta morto to anyone in your life telling them you'd be willing to die and be reborn for them, who would it be? And more importantly, why haven't you told them yet? Drop your answer in the comments, not their name, but what's stopping you from that level of vulnerability? Because Cape Verde taught us that the most revolutionary act in this disconnected world might just be the courage to say, I am yours, completely. If you're ready for more stories that reveal what's possible when cultures choose connection over division, hit subscribe. Because next week, we're traveling to a place where strangers become family with a single shared meal, and where the concept of loneliness literally doesn't exist in their language. Until then, carry Cape Verde's greatest lesson with you. In a world trying to convince you that you're alone, remember somewhere in the Atlantic, 10 islands are proving that paradise isn't a place you find, it's a community you create. Obrigado, thank you, and remember Tudo Direito, everything is going to be alright.